okay, parents, your kids are going to turn out just fine.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by FOCO. That's FOCO, F-O-C-O. If you are a parent of a child or teen with ADHD, you know how challenging it can be to keep them focused and engaged. FOCO is the all-natural solution for ADHD, whether it's for school, homework, or just everyday activities. FOCO helps your child or teen stay calm and attentive. Before trying prescription drugs like Adderall that can come with harsh side effects, I recommend you try FOCO. Visit ThinkFOCO, that's ThinkFoco, thinkfoco.com for more information. This is the Your Kids Will Be Fine podcast. I am Dr. Michael Malowski, board-certified pediatrician, also parent of 7, grandparent of 3. On the podcast, we're always trying to find ways to help parents navigate the information overload that seems to inundate us from all sides, especially social media, and about the anxiety that brings us around the parenting choices that we make. Try to cut through all of that and help parents understand that your kids will be fine, and that oftentimes many of these choices that are presented to us, the way they come at us in the blogosphere and the internet, are not always as black and white as they seem. So today I wanted to pick an interesting departure for our topic, and that has to do with how having a child changes us as parents and as people. I think all of us had the experience of going through a part of our adult life without kids, and then finding a partner, getting married, and then almost inevitably, I see it in my own experience, my own journey as a parent, and talking to so many families over the years who I have been part of their parenting journey, that transition from adult life without kids to being a parent, and the observations that people have made and the observations I have made about how it fundamentally, in so many ways, can change us. What I remember, and what many of the families I speak to that remembers, that it's really easy, at least easy in retrospect, to go through your adult life and minimize and work around the parts of our personalities and the things that tend to hold us back, because we have the ability to manage our day. We have complete control over our routines and habits. We can hack our strengths. We can navigate around our weaknesses. And for a lot of us, sometimes some of those things can become invisible to us, some of the things that are hidden in our personality and the way we are and our personality styles. And then you become a parent. And I think, as I've said before, and I've mentioned when I was on the Mom Game podcast, and as I say often on our podcast, becoming a parent in 2025 is a fundamentally different challenge and experience than navigating parenthood a mere 10 years ago, and especially a generation ago. I can see it in my own parenting journey, becoming a parent for the first time in 1996, and the fundamental differences that it is when you became a parent for the last time, my most recent child, who was born in 2010. And the challenges are in that we are inundated, overwhelmed with information. We often will judge ourselves and feel and hold ourselves to a standard that may have nothing to do with real world or anything realistic, but it's because of the input and what we get from our online world and our online engagement and interaction about the way everything should be and how everything should look. And we weren't burdened with that years ago, especially when I first started having kids. And there's no question that and this isn't true for everybody. I think everybody navigates this experience individually, and I think everybody assigns different meaning to it based on their priorities and their own personality strengths and differences. But by far the most common theme that I see is that having a child brings up and triggers so much anxiety that people didn't realize were part of who they are. So much anxiety about their own abilities, anxieties about getting it right, anxieties about living up to a standard, anxieties about whether you're giving your child the best future possible and setting them up for success. And these anxieties I see in so many families. They come to the office and it's overwhelming. And sometimes, especially in that first 6 months, navigating a newborn and all of the difficulties around that, especially lack of sleep and all the uncertainty if you've never done it before, it can be for some people crippling. And then this anxiety kind of style can color the way that they interact and parent all the way through their experience as a parent. And it can fundamentally change how you experience being a parent and fundamentally change what your child's experience is. So why should this be? Why has this become a more common experience from what people tell me and from what people show me and from what I hear when I speak to families in the office? And I think once again, it comes down to the fact that several different factors why anxiety seems to be an overwhelming thing that is brought forth when people become new parents. First and foremost is that more and more families are separated from their family of origin, that they don't have extended family nearby. So many more families are so distant from each other. So you don't have the benefit of the closeness of your parents or your grandparents close by to help you navigate and draw from their experience and that kind of loving support that can only come from immediate family. I'm sure many of us feel very close to our friends, but it is often not the same. Once again, I'm excluding families with lots of generational trauma or abuse. Of course, that's going to change the dynamic. So I think that's a big part of it. I think that oftentimes navigating this very, very massive upheaval in our lives without that support can generate a lot of anxiety. And I think that our engagement and involvement in these online communities of parents where we are being exposed to a massive amount of different views and some people very convinced that they're right, people showing us what they think what ideal looks like, and then the amount of despair that comes with I can't live up to this. I have no idea how someone is supposed to do this. I have no idea how someone is supposed to do this. This is my experience. And I think that is an enormous, enormous source of anxiety when new parents are navigating this. So and third, I think that along with that comes a sense of parenting in the public sphere, that I think parents feel an enormous sense of being observed and being judged by other parents, probably because of this our lives and our online and where our children are part of that. And then everyone feels empowered to give us their views and comment. So I think that also is a type of anxiety that never existed before in navigating parenting and raising children. So how do we navigate this? What can parents do to offset this general weight and blanket of anxiety that seems to be over all of us as we are transitioning in life from life without kids to the parenting journey, and we take it on? So I think the first is being able to recognize that there isn't any singular hack, there isn't any singular method, there isn't any singular approach. There's nothing in raising children that is a universal, simply because humans are way too complex and way too variable. And my favorite example, there was a book that came out when I was I'm going to say in the last 20 years, many of you may be familiar with it, called Baby Wise. Baby Wise was one of those books that made a huge splash because it empowered parents to think that they have control and they can construct a schedule with their child from the newborn period through the first year that is sane and that is regular and that is predictable. And it gets them sleep and their child's happier and their child becomes baby wise. And there's no question that for a lot of people, That book was a godsend. It worked great. It was their kid fell into it. They felt competent. They felt like they had control. They were better rested. Fantastic. But there were legions of parents who, and I would come to my office and they would break down and cry because they had invested in this book, they'd invested in this idea, and it just wasn't happening. And so it must be me, it must be a parenting failure. I must be the problem. Anxiety through the roof. How am I ever going to get this right? Everything I do is going to be wrong. My kid is going to never amount to anything because I can't do this and I can't even accomplish this seemingly simple thing. And the truth about Baby Wise, and what Baby Wise often left out, I think they might have added it in later editions, is that a lot of any individual baby's response to this kind of model is very dependent on your child's innate temperament and personality. As any of you have been parents for more than a minute know, your kids do come out with a lot of software already downloaded. And how your baby responds to situations, how organized they are, how easy they are with transitions, how needy they are with physical closeness, attention, routine, they're all so individual and based on just their type of personality and temperament that they are often born with. As I've said before, your kids are born with over 400 psychological traits that will come out no matter what you do, and you have nothing to do with it. And so when I would tell people this, you could just see the relief wash over them to know that this has nothing to do with them doing it right or doing it wrong, or necessarily with Baby Wise. So the point is that being able to grasp and understand that so much about who your child is out of your control from the minute they're born, and that the art and skill of parenting isn't about picking the right mode and the right model and the right method, but the art and skill of parenting is being able to recognize what your child needs and how to best address it to meet your child's needs and to meet your needs. Because not everyone's household has to run the exact same way either. And that it doesn't have to look like everyone else's household or everyone else's parenting style. And that's okay. So I think that if there's anything that I can leave you with after this podcast, is that there's so much of our anxiety is driven by this external sense of being observed, being judged, that everything has to look a certain way and look right, and nothing could be further from the truth. Remember that you can find Your Kids Will Be Fine podcast everywhere you find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and all other platforms. Don't forget to go to our website, yourkidswillbefine.com, where you can download all the episodes, leave us comments, leave us show suggestions. That's a tongue twister. And we are looking forward to our next episode. And look for me. I'm going to be showing up on some other podcasts talking about cool parenting topics. In case you missed it, look for me on the Mom Game podcast, also available on all platforms. We had a great discussion about a little bit on this very topic. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time.